With recently doing Dark Souls 1 and 2 at NG+7, I think it's time to see what Dark Souls 3 NG+7 has to offer. So I'm here today to see, can you beat Dark Souls 3 starting at NG+7? Shocker to none, it's a yes, but let's find out how. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these, or just like seeing me suffer. I also have a second channel, so if you like to see the best moments and highlights from streams, check out Arcane Light. I also have a VOD channel for those who just want the raw footage. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, I must play the game on NG+7. Number 2, I cannot use summons to help in boss fights. And lastly, number 3, I must beat every boss in the game. With the rules out of the way, let's get this run started. Starting off with the class, I went with the Thief for the Bandit Knife since I'll be needing its bleed buildup to make Gundyr a piece of cake. I then named my character Jeff because my name's Jeff. Once done with making my character, I need to mod the game to NG+7, so I open up Cheat Engine like I did for the last 2 games and find the journey level and set it to 8 to put me in NG+7. I know it's working because after killing a hollow, I get 128 souls when they normally give you 20. The most surprising thing here is that I don't get one-shot by the hollows. I was expecting this to be like DS1 and 2 when it comes to crazy damage, but that seems not to be the case here. Some interesting things that change in NG+7 is that souls you pick off the ground are higher level, and you can get higher level rings that weren't accessible in NG. Sadly though, bosses and enemy placements are the exact same. Here's a chart showing the NG+ scaling for those who would like to see the numbers of it all. With that said, it's time to bleed Gundyr here to death. Very straightforward fight, just dodge to the right and smack a few times until I get a bleed off. The reason for the bleed is that bleed deals percent base damage. So even though Gundyr has 4,985 health, I can take about 15% of that off with each bleed proc, making this supposed hard start an absolute breeze. I just make sure to go single-handed here to get more hits off faster to proc bleed sooner. Then for the second phase, he becomes even easier with just standing behind him while slashing away. The only dangerous part is his jump attack, but all I had to do was walk back and roll. I just repeated this a few times, and after 9 bleeds, the big bad Gundyr goes down, earning me 19,125 souls. After that easy fight, I pick up the coveted Silver Serpent Ring for some extra soul gain. I then convince a giant crystal lizard off an edge for 16,830 more souls. On top of this, I make sure to mug a homeless man for 14,025 souls, and take his Uchi Katana, which will be my weapon of choice for the time being. I then use all those souls to get my dex to 31 for damage, strength to 11 to wield the katana in one hand, and vigor to 13 for survivability. Before leaving, I make sure to stock up on fire bombs. I use those fire bombs and a bow and arrows that I had on me to kill 2 Pus of Man to net me 2 Titanite shards. I then do the usual gathering of gold pine resin, Titanite shards, undead hunter charm, and killing the old hag. The only different thing I grabbed this time was the black fire bombs, which I will need much later on in this run. I then use all the souls I gathered to get my vigor to 16 and get my Uchi Katana to +2, having me ready for Vordt. Now, is the Uchi Katana the most fitting weapon to take on Vordt with? No, the best weapon to use in this case would actually be the broadsword, since straight swords are busted with their insanely fast one-headed swings. The reason for not going this route is that the broadsword scales mainly with strength, and the main weapon for this run uses dex. So, to not invest points where they're not needed early on, I went with the Uchi Katana, even though its bleed buildup won't have any effect on Vordt. With that explanation out of the way, the trick for Vordt's first phase is to just stay underneath him while smacking away. Nothing new here. Now, when Vordt goes into phase 2, I make sure to switch to single-handed so that when Vordt does his Ice Breath attack, my charged attack will be a poke, making hitting his head a lot easier, allowing for a nice visceral afterwards, which Vordt was not too fond of and almost one-shot me right afterwards. That's 16 vigor and armor coming in clutch right there. With Vordt in phase 2, his hitboxes become much larger and most of his attacks can get you even with being underneath him. So I just played it safe and waited for his Ice Breath attack to get a visceral off. It definitely got close a few times, but I was just able to survive to get the first try off, earning me 21,037 souls, allowing me to get my dex to 34. I then pick up some alluring skulls, talk to a hermit who will help me out in a bit, pick up some charcoal pine resin, kill the crystal lizard to get a sharp gem, nab the mortician ashes for alluring skulls and human pine resin purchases, to then get one-shotted by a small child. That NG+7 damage finally kicking in. Back to gathering though, I get the Fire Clutch Ring, free Cornyx so that I can have access to Pyromancy, pick up the Titanite shards in the area, let a blind chick touch me if you know what I mean, head to the Road of Sacrifice to grab the Grass Crest Shield for the stamina regain, and the Sage Ring for faster casting speed. Talk to a sorcerer douchebag so that I can learn sorcery, snag the noob armor set stated by some Souls experts, but it's still my favorite armor set. Then use the Almighty Gravity spell to take out Dumb and Dumber, making my way to Farron Keep to get the Gold Scroll, the Sage Scroll, and the Dust Crown. Also, while here, I got the Farron Cold to be able to use the Sharp Gem and nab the main weapon of this run, the Cell Sword Twin Blades. But I'm not done gathering yet. I get the Dream Chaser's Ashes to be able to buy Titanite shards, kill a stray demon for some souls, and kill the 2 crystal lizards for large Titanite shards. I then go back to Firelink Shrine to upgrade my Cell Sword to +4 and infuse them with a Sharp Gem to make their dex scaling an A. I then go back to the Road of Sacrifice to get the Great Swamp Pyromancy Tome, the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring +1, and the Swamp Ring. I then meet up with my Onionite friend to slay a demon, and of course, as tradition goes on this channel, we must stop and toast with our friend. Salud everyone, I hope your day's going well. Once done drinking, I get the Flynn's Ring and Chloranthy Ring. With all that done, I get my dex to 40 and start working on increasing my faith. I also visit with Cornyx to get Fire Orb and Poison Mist, making me ready for the Curse Rotted Greatwood. Which y'all are probably thinking, this is easy Kane. All you have to do is take out the basic mobs, slap some pus sacks to the point of them busting, then for phase 2, use the Fire Orb to help pop some more sacks, and then finish the tree off with a Fiery Cell Sword. You would be correct there, dear viewer, but you forgot one crucial detail. I'm the one playing, and I have the marvelous ability to die to easy bosses, and not just once, but thrice. That's 3 more times than the Nameless King, mind you. Luckily, I was able to stop myself from dying a 3rd time and finally burn this stupid tree down, netting me 49,087 souls. I then use those souls to get my faith to 20. Right after this, I make a deal with the wizard to sacrifice my youth for 5 more levels in faith, allowing me to be able to use the Dark Blade spell, which I got the tome from Yuria, who I gave to the blind chick to buy the spell, and the Saint's Ring. Also, I use Yuria to buy poison throwing knives, which will come in handy for a few fights. Needing a talisman, I went back and picked up the Saint's Talisman. Funny thing is, I won't be using any of that for the next fight against the Abyss Watchers. The plan here was to go Flynn's Ring for the extra damage and hope the 3rd Watcher distracts the first one while I hit it from behind, but unfortunately the 3rd Watcher kept getting double teamed. So that meant I needed to try to solo this, and that didn't pan out too well. Round 2, I got some better RNG with the 2nd Watcher getting distracted by the enemies outside the fog wall, which I had no clue could happen, allowing me to take out the main Watcher to put me in phase 2. My plan was simple, just get a backstab off after the Watcher jumps in the air by running under his attacks, followed up by a few slashes for some extra damage, which normally works like a charm, but with one simple mistake, I got one-shotted. Round 3 and 4 were not so good, I couldn't even get past the first phase. But finally on round 5, I made it back to phase 2, where I decided to use the gold pine resin I collected earlier to dish out some extra damage. Luckily, with my high level, I could survive some hits to stay in the game, but I still used the same safe strategy as before and just waited for jumps to get backstabs in. Took about 4 minutes of patiently waiting for attacks, but I was finally able to get the win, earning me 100,980 souls. After the fight, I knew I needed some more HP, so I got my Vigor to 20 and then started working on my Intelligence stat. I then make my way to the Catacombs, pick up the Grave Warden Ashes to be able to buy Karthus Rouge, and take on Walnir, which took a bit longer than usual since it takes a lot more damage in NG+7 to break his bracelets, which is obvious, but either way, still an easy fight. After that, I go to Smoldering Lake, watch Wyrm Solaire die a painful death, and take on the Old Demon King. For this fight, I went with Dark Blade and Poison Mist. Poison Mist for the tick damage, and Dark Blade for the dark damage since that's what the Old Demon King is most weak to. This should have been an easy first try with not locking on and just rolling and strafing to the right, but near the end I was a bit overconfident in my running abilities, leading me to get one shot. I made up for it in round 2 though, and in round 2 I did a much better job of showcasing how busted the Sellsword's two-handed L1 attack can be. Near the end of the fights, I got very cautious with the old Demon King after his explosion that I made sure to poison him first to lower his health and then finish him off with the Sellswords. I have had way too many experiences with him just popping right back up and smacking me, so I wasn't taking any chances here. With the Demon King defeated, I made sure to get the chunk and large shards in the area and then visited the bird nest to trade in a black firebomb for another chunk, allowing me to get my Sellswords to +7. I then killed Pontiff's Croc Dog for Pontiff's right eye, which will increase my damage for every consecutive hit I do, which is perfect for the Sellswords. As you can see with the amount of damage I could do to the Crystal Sage. 1347 might not seem like much, but that's actually really good at this point in the game. I also made sure to coat my sword in poison so that I can have some tick damage going on as well. So of course, I play hide and seek with the Sage until he summons his clones, which is where I use the poison throwing knights to hit the clones to make them go away, since they only need to be hit once, leaving the poison Sage wide open for me to pound on until he died. Right after this, I make sure to get the Paladin's Ashes to be able to buy the Lloyd Shield Ring. I then grab the Lloyd Sword Ring, take out 2 Giants for their large Titanite Shards, hit up the Sorcerer Douche to buy Pestilent Mist, buy a staff from the Merchant to be able to use Pestilent Mist, and then use all the souls I have gathered to this point to get my intelligence to 30 to be able to use the spell, making me ready for the Deacons of the Deep. So the Deacons are the same as normal here, you just lure the mob to the back and take out the red glowing Deacons to deal a set damage to the health bar. Once the main Deacon is summoned, I use the mist to weaken the trash mobs and the boss, and use an alluring skull to distract the fodder to wail on the main Deacon. Except things didn't go as planned in round 1 and I ended up dying. Good thing round 2 was way better and I had no issues using the same strat to beat the boss. While at the cathedral, I used that Hunter's Charm I got earlier to get the Deep Boreal Divine Tome, allowing me to be able to buy Deep Protection. With the Deacons defeated, I can access Irithyll the Boreal Valley, where I can get the Witch Tree branch, which increases casting speed when held. I also take out the Giant Lady here to get Doris Gnawing, which will be very useful in this run for its insane bleed buildup. While in the valley, I made sure to get the Magic Clutch Ring as well. I might have died getting it, but it was 100% worth it. I then break into Irithyll dungeons to get the Jailer Key so that I can get the Bellowing Dragoncrest Ring for that 20% sorcery damage. I then die to a giant while killing a Crystal Lizard for its chunk. Sucks for the giant though, because I can just use Pestilent Mist on him and he will never wake up from his nap. But karma's a bitch, and I die to gravity right afterwards. I then use my last Hunter's Charm to get the Dark Clutch Ring. I then pick up the Lightning Blade as well, and grab Xanathos Ashes as well as the Dust Crown Ring. Once done robbing the prison, I go to the Profane Capital, where I killed a sorcerer for Logan's Scroll, which will allow me to buy Homing Soul Mass and Soul Spear. While I was at it, I buy more of his stock so that the douche will give me the Young Dragon Ring for 12% more sorcery damage. I then use the Pestilent Mist to kill a Mimic chest without waking it up to get the best catalyst in the game, the Court Sorcerer's Staff. Needing some more shards, I nabbed 2 large Titanite shards back at Smoldering Lake that I missed to get my staff to +4. With all that done, it's time for Yhorm. For this fight, I'll be using the Magic Clutch Ring, Bellowing Ring, Young Dragon Ring, and the Crown of Dusk for a 57% increase in sorcery damage. On top of that, I have the Dust Crown Ring to reduce spell costs, making Soul Spear a lot cheaper to use. The reason for this build is for easy headshots to break Yhorm. Once broken, I get 3 hits off with the Sellswords and then a Visceral. The interesting thing about this is, apparently those hits on the head and Visceral count towards the next head break, because the next Soul Spear after the Visceral broke Yhorm again. I had no clue the damage on the head after the break counts for the next one. Also, interestingly enough, once in phase 2, it actually takes more damage to break Yhorm's head, because even after smacking it with the swords, it took 3 Soul Spears after to get the next break. Even after hundreds of hours, I'm still learning new things about this game. But with that fun bit of information shared, I just repeated this pattern until the big boy went down, earning me 151,470 souls, which I use to get myself to level 88. I then free Grey Rat and buy the Buckler Shield off of him for later, while at the shrine I buy Human Pine Resin, and y'all know what that means, it's time for Dancer. For Dancer, I do the usual of applying human pine resin for dark damage and try to stay on her backside slapping away. The reason for the pine resin and not dark blade is that I only have one spell slot and I wanted to use that for Soul Spear for phase 2. In phase 2, Dancer becomes a lot easier to beat when attacking from range. Well, that's if you don't fuck it up like I did. Round 2 was a very short fight due to me trying to be too aggressive. Round 3 though, I made it back to phase 2 and as you can see, it's pretty easy to keep distance while getting hits off. My biggest regret though was not using Doris Gnawing instead. It would have required less ring setup, so I could have had Lloyd's Shield Ring on at the time, and the bleed damage would have made the fight twice as fast. But I was able to make Soul Spear work to get the job done, earning me 229,500 souls, which I used to get my intelligence to 40 and put the rest in vigor because I could use the extra health. With Lothric Castle open to me, I gather all the chunks and shards I can, kill a mimic for the Sunlight Straight Sword, pick up the red Tearstone Ring for a few fights, use the souls I gathered to get my vigor to 25, use the chunks I got to get my swords to +9, and the large shards to get my Saint's Talisman to +5. I then buy some charcoal pine resin for the next boss fights, and then use gravity to trigger RTSR, having me ready for the Dragon Slayer armor, where I use Sunlight Straight Sword's weapon art, Oath of Sunlight, which grants an 11.5% AR increase and 10% bonus to damage absorption for 45 seconds. I then use Deep Protection right after this, which is very important to do this after Oath of Sunlight, because if it's done before, Oath of Sunlight will cancel out Deep Protection. I then apply the resin and eat some green blossoms for a stamina boost, making me fully buffed up for Dragon Slayer, where I'm going in with RTSR, Flynn's Ring, the right eye of Pontiff, and a Fire Clutch Ring. Combine all of this with not locking onto the boss and running in circles makes for a very easy fight. The only scary part was the butterflies, but I decided to just keep pressuring and I was able to kill Dragon Slayer armor before they could even get a chance to hit me. Son of a bitch! Oh, okay, thank God. They gave me the win. I just had a PTSD moment thanks to DS2. If you know, you know. I then used the souls I just got to start working on getting my phase 230 to be able to use Lightning Blade, but I'm a few 120,000 souls shy, so I get to farming, and after a bit of farming, I was able to get it to 30, which means it's time for Osiris, where I use a similar setup as before, but trade out RTSR for Lloyd's Sword Ring and Fire Clutch Ring for Lingering Dragon Crest Ring +1 so that Lightning Blade will stay up longer. The strat for Osiris in phase 1 was just staying on his stomach, swinging away. For phase 2, I keep doing this, but on his backside where it's the safest. Some of you might be wondering why no RTSR. Very simple, I was afraid of the boss charge attack, and I'm glad I was because I did get hit by it. Only surviving thanks to being level 101 and having 25 vigor, but I recovered quickly and was able to win the fight swiftly. After the fights, I get the Path of the Dragon so that I can path on over to Archdragon's Peak, where I can get Lightning Clutch Ring and one-shot a dragon to death. While here, I get the Dragon Chaser's Ashes to be able to buy chunks and do the mating ritual of Havels to lure him away to nab a slab, which I use to get my swords to +10. Realizing I missed the Mornay's Ring and Ring of the Sun Firstborn, I go pick those up to increase my miracle damage, meaning it was time to abuse Doris Gnawing on Champion Gundyr. This man might be a threat up close, but far away he's practically a pushover. Thanks to the massive bleed buildup from Doris Gnawing, it didn't take too long to beat Gundyr. I then continue my bullying with Doris on a Black Knight so that I could get the Hornet's Ring for counter damage. Also, I just noticed that the callback to DS1 with the Taurus' sword and tombstone. A very nice touch from FromSoft. With that said, it's time to put the ring to use for the Pontiff fights, where the buckler I bought earlier comes into play for parry purposes. After visceraling Pontiff, I make sure to run past him to bait out his jump attack, which is the easiest attack to parry. After the second visceral, I go to town with the Cell Swords to get as much damage off as possible. I back away once he goes into phase 2, and right when he stops buffing himself, I charge in for more hits and pressure non-stop to get the win. A bit risky going with RTSR here, but Lady Luck was on my side this go around. After beating Pontiff, I was able to get my faith to 40 and start working on getting my vigor to 30. I then go get the Eastern Ashes for large Titanite shards, commit a war crime against the Yorshka stance to get her chime, which is the best chime in the game. Interesting, not only did I kill DS1's most beloved character for his chime, I also just killed DS3's most beloved character for her chime. Oh well, I didn't get my bloody up Yorshka chime to +9, so that my lightning blade will be juiced up and ready for Aldrich, where I make sure to have the lightning clutch ring on as well for even more damage. This fight plays out the same as normal. The only thing I did to make it easier was stand in front of Aldrich, but not too close to bait him to do physical attacks. If you stand too much on top of him, he'll run away. Besides that, it was the same old whack-a-mole fight. Pretty easy first try. With that done, the Grand Archive can now be opened, where I can get my second slab, which I used on my staff when I should have used it on my chime. No clue why I did that. I then get my vigor to 30 so that I can take on the twin princes, where right at the start of the fight I quit out. This is a speedrunner dash no hit strat. By doing this, when I go into the fight, the elder brother won't jump on top of me. With this, I can get all my buffs off with no issues. From here, I just roll to the right after attacks and smack away when I can. Tragically, near the end of the first phase, I got hit, but still beat the elder brother, which had me panicking, so I ran back to the entrance to get ready for the magic missiles, and come to find out, if you go back to the entrance, they can't teleport on top of you. I only thought this worked right when you enter the fight, but come to find out, you can do this at any point in the fight. I didn't stay there long, I just wanted to get healed and rebuffed. Once done with that, I made sure to stay on top of the brothers to do the same strategy as before of just rolling to the right and hitting them from behind. By doing this, I could hit both brothers at the same time. So when the elder brother went down, the younger brother would barely had any health left, allowing me to finish him off with no issues, earning me the first try. Also earning me 216,750 souls, which I make the bad call of pumping them into intelligence. Either way, it was time for the Nameless King, where I used the lightning cell swords to fight the chicken as normal, and then abused Doris 9 on Nameless. For those of you who do not know, Nameless pretty much just lets ranged users do whatever they want to him, and combine this with a spell that can make him bleed, it wasn't much of a fight. Still blows my damn mind that the fucking tree killed me more times than the majority of the bosses so far. After the fight, I grabbed the slab in the area so that I could get my chime to +10. I then place all the lord's heads so that I can access the Kiln of the First Flame, where I can take a bonfire to the dredge heap, meaning it's time for the Demon Prince. For phase 1, I just lure the Demon of Pain away from the Demon of Below so that I can smack him to death with no interference from Mr. Below, and with only Below left, I just made sure to hang out near his belly or backside to be safe while getting hits off. For phase 2, I made sure to bring Carthus Rouge because this boss has way too much health, and the bleed proc will speed this fight up dramatically. The Demon Prince is pretty much the same as phase 1, where you can just hide underneath him or behind him, but just need to be careful when he flies away to get ready for his beam attack and when he tries to do his body slam attack. Besides that, I just focus on getting bleed procs off until I won. Right after that, I poison cheese Half-Light because fuck that fight. With Half-Light out of the picture, it meant it was Gael time. Gael was a bit of a tough one. I did a good amount of experimenting to figure this one out, leading me to die 7 times. The plan was to use Lightning Blade once in phase 1 to fight him normally. In phase 2, I start off with the Poison Throwing Knives to get a poison proc for its tick damage. Once the poison was in effect, I switched to Doris Gnawing for bleed procs, which made getting to phase 3 very quick. In phase 3, I continued to use Doris Gnawing until I can no longer use the spell. This put Gael below 1/4 of his health, so I just have to wait for him to do his double slam attack to get hits in, and I repeat this until I won. A bit complicated, but it got the job done. Right after this, I took on Sister Friede, which was a lot easier than you would think. Phase 1, I just waited for her to go invisible and backstab her, which I follow up with a few slashes afterwards. Repeat this until she's dead. For phase 2, use Poison Throwing Knives to poison Father. JK Leeds would be so proud of me at the amount of throwing knives being used in this run. After Father is poisoned, I get some lightning blade damage off to speed up the kill. For phase 3, you repeat phase 1, but instead of waiting for her to go invisible, you can do this after any of her jump attacks for an easy backstab. I also had some gold pine bundles on me for some extra damage as well, leading to a very easy first try. After this was the not so easy fight with Gravetender, where I even went out of my way to get the ring spear and adjust my stats, thinking it would help me out. It tragically did not. I got close to winning 3 times to just end up getting one shot by the damn giant wolf, leading to a total death count of 27. God, I really hate this fight. The strategy came to be use charcoal resin on the small wolves at the start to take them out quickly. I then poisoned Gravetender for tick damage. After getting poison off, I switched to the spear to get a few hits in so that when the poison stops, it's right before he would summon the giant wolf. I then get Grave Tinder stuck to apply the poison to rebuff myself and switch back to the Cell Swords, where I try to DPS Grave Tinder down as fast as possible. Some tries I was able to kill him before the wolf showed up, and other times the poison would kill him. But with Grave Tinder out of the picture meant it was just the giant wolf, whom I made sure to poison as well for the tick damage and use Flaming Cell Swords with the Fire Clutch ring to finish the job. Thank fucking God, because I don't want to see this damn fight again for a while. With that done, that just leaves 2 bosses left, and I decided to go for the Soul of Cinder, who as usual, gives me a hard time. Not as hard as Grave Tinder with only 13 deaths this time, but still a pain nonetheless. The worst part is that on my original winning attempt, I forgot to hit the record button, so I ended up having to redo the fight again by respawning the boss. So my new death count is 15 with 2 wins, which sucks because the first win was super clean, whereas this win, well, it was a bit of a mess, but a lot more intense. What was also missing from me not recording was that I adjusted my stats to take points away from intelligence and put them into vigor for 50 and dex for 58. With that said, the strategy was to use Lightning Blade with the single sword strikes to allow for safer dodges and switch to double swings once Cinder entered his mage state, making his first phase sometimes easy. For phase 2, same as before, use Lightning Blade with single strikes while dodging to the right, which worked well on the first win, but this time I ended up running out of Estus and only had 10% HP left. I honestly thought I was going to die here, but I somehow managed to pull it out of my ass. But to just give y'all a taste of that intensity, here's the last 30 seconds of the fight. I'm just as shocked as y'all as to how I pulled that off, but with that done, I level up for the last time to get myself to 137. For me to take on Midir, who is the same old boring fight as usual, but Midir heard me talking shit and killed me 2 times for it. But I got him on the 3rd attempt with no issues. If it isn't obvious, Lightning Cell Swords go burr. Also, Midir gives the most souls in the entire game at a whopping 382,500 souls. Too bad the run is over and it's time for the credits. Overall, I had a blast doing all the Dark Souls games starting at NG+7. I think I might do this with Neo and possibly Code Vein if I can figure out how to mod those games. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or on Twitch at Arcane Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.